You're listening to the Vacation Rental Key with T&T, the podcast for vacation rental managers by vacation rental managers. I'm Tim Cafferty, and I manage two companies, one in Virginia and one in North Carolina. And I'm one of the two T's.
And I'm the other T, Tiffany Edwards, born and raised in the vacation rental business. I help manage our family businesses from Key West all the way to Kauai.
In the next 30 minutes, we're going to give you our keys to success in the vacation rental business. Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I'm Tim. She's Tiffany. Tiffany, we are almost to Labor Day, believe it or not. How has your summer been?
Busy. Baseball. Kids need to go back to school. That's the point that I'm at right now. But it has been great, and it has been a great year for our industry. But I'm a little tired, Tim. How about you?
I am not allowed to complain. I was reminded because I have taken some time off this summer. I have been on a golfing junket. Since the last time you and I saw each other, I've been to Wisconsin, I've been to Ireland, I've been to Scotland, I've been to England, I've been to the Isle of Man, and I have played golf in all those locations. And so I got a shout out for a couple of people. We'll call this market research, Tiffany, because I actually met some listeners overseas. We knew we had people out there listening, but Niles in Edinburgh, good day. And Niles is a vacation rental operation in Edinburgh, and Porrick in Dublin is a listener. And just by serendipitous, we met, shared maybe a pint or two in a watering hole in Dublin, and it came out that he was a listener on the podcast. And my new friend Bill in Arizona is also a listener of our podcast. So we welcome all of you, and we welcome everyone back to the show. Today, we are taking a little bit of a twist. We know we have property owners that listen to us out there. Bill's one, by the way. And some of you may be contemplating choosing a property manager. Maybe you already chosen one. You're thinking about switching. But, finding a good manager isn't about just finding someone to hand over the keys and wash the sheets. It's about finding a true partner to protect your asset, maximize your cash flows, and save your sanity. Whether you're hiring your very first manager or thinking about firing your current one, today we're going to pull back the curtain on some non-negotiable things you should be thinking about before signing on the dotted line. So let's dive in.
Tim, I love this because we are flipping the script a little bit on focusing on the owners, but we had a side conversation and really looking at the end of this summer, there is more conversation, more interest, I think, for our businesses, and I believe for yours too, where there is an uptick of inquiries from homeowners looking to see what other management companies, how they're doing it, what are the terms, what are the specifics and operations. And I think a large part of that is because following COVID, we had such an increase in people coming into the industry, purchasing second homes and becoming vacation rental owners. And so now they've had a little bit of experience to understand what the industry is. And so they're trying to understand even more so, is the company that they're with working for them, or maybe they've gotten fatigue of running it themselves. So these are the things that we think a homeowner should be looking at. And if you're a property manager, you need to think through these things through the lens of an owner so that you can answer these if those inquiries come to fruition.
I think a lot of it goes back to financial. And the inquiries we're getting are that, yeah, I got the weeks, but I didn't get the amount of money I thought I should get. And my agreement actually says something I didn't realize. So let's dive right into that agreement, because that's the key thing that guides the relationship, right?
Absolutely. So an owner, first and foremost, on the financial side, because again, that's the most important. An agreement needs to have information and details of when payments are going to be distributed and what deductions are made from those payments. So as an owner, you need to read through exactly what the company is keeping from fees, from rental, from commission, and what you're being distributed. And then it needs to line out exactly the days or the time frame of when those distributions would come to you.
Yeah. Is it a monthly statement that you're going to get? Is it more often? Is it less often? When do you get paid? All those kinds of things. That fee structure that is in the agreement as well sometimes is misunderstood. You'll have a company come out and say, we have a 0% commission. Trust me on this. They're not working for free. So make sure you understand what the headline commission percentage is and know that that doesn't tell the whole story. Look out for those hidden fees. Are you going to get charged for credit card processing fees? Are there marketing charges? Is there a linen program? Are there hot tub fees? Are there administrative add-ons? You need to understand all of this and make sure you have the total compensation in mind as you sign that agreement.
And really, as you read through, if the fees are not outlined, that is a red flag for me. We've started, especially because there's a national trend, as you know, Tim, with junk fees. There's been some federal decisions that have been made as it relates to listing out junk fees. And that is an ongoing trend. So what we've done in a lot of our businesses is we actually have a one-pager that lists out what fees and who pays what, so that it's easy and it's very transparent for owners. If you're finding a company is not listing out in their agreement or discussing what the fee structure is, again, that is a red flag you should be looking at. The other thing I think that's really important is you need to make sure that there's some type of spending threshold. So a maximum amount that a property owner can spend on your behalf for some type of maintenance issue. So if it's $200, if it's $500, a property manager can make those decisions for you unless it's some type of emergency, but you need to know what those emergencies would be. In the summer, we mention this all the time, but say 4th of July for these beach properties and the AC goes out, what is the line of communication and decision that is made for a brand new air conditioner? And what is the threshold where someone doesn't have to call you? Because there are all types of different type of owners. Do you want to be called every single time or not? That needs to be in the agreement, and it needs to be a number that you're comfortable with for those property managers to make that.
I had an owner just last week say, what's this loaner refrigerator thing? Well, Mr. Owner, we contacted you, or at least tried to contact you 3 times in a 23-hour period, and we did not hear back from you. So we had to make the best decision possible, as our agreement states, in your interest. So that's really important. Another one that kind of relates to this when you're talking about the revenue and how you're paid and being informed on weeks that are booked. Is there a system where you're going to know right away that you just had a confirmed booking? But are there blockout dates? Are there limits on when the owner can use their own home? What's the cancellation policy? And then I know we're going to cover this probably in more depth later. What is the exit policy? What kind of notice do you have? Is it 30 days? Is it 2 years? I saw one of those this year, a 2-year notice of cancellation, or else you're charged a 5-figure cancellation fee. Some of these clauses are just amazing.
That I can't even imagine what that would look like. That has to be the tiniest print possible. And offline, you need to tell me exactly who that is, because that is that's incredible. Going back into the financials as well, this is so important, but you need to have in your agreement that the company prepares that 1099. That's really important. Making sure that they prepare it, they send it to you. You're going to have different expenses. This is an asset. Make sure that that's in the agreement that you can refer back to.
Some software programs even provide a year-end P&L for the property owner, which can be a massive help when it comes time to prepare those taxes. So ask those kind of questions as well. Another one is, again, sort of related to the contract and the whole financial thing, is what does their dynamic pricing and revenue management look like? That is the biggest point I have heard this year from owners who are looking around. How do they price the property? Do they rely on flat seasonal rates, $100 a night? I don't think anybody does that anymore. Or do they use those real-time dynamic pricing software that adjusts for occupancy, local events, supply and demand, length of stay optimization? This summer, I have heard more from owners who got the week booked, but at a substantial discount. I think we've covered that in some of our previous podcasts, where as much as a 50% discount on some weeks, but they got it booked.
Well, and as an owner, this isn't in your agreement, but when you're having these conversations through your business development and with these other companies, try to figure out what the company's strategy is. So as it relates to pricing, if they got it booked, are they stuck to a specific number and you got it booked a year ahead of time where a pricing was different than closer to? When are they actually receiving some of these booking windows? I think that's really important to see what their strategy is. And then if you're a homeowner as well, that you've been self-managing and you're starting to look at maybe property managers, this is the section I would dive into so much because you're not relying on your own listing site suggestions of pricing. Really dive into how a property manager uses these dynamic tools to maximize your revenue. That is a huge asset from a property management perspective.
Another one along that line. Again, we have different lists, if you can probably tell here between Tiffany and I. She's more of the contract and the legal person. I'm more of the touchy-feely. This is how it works. How about multi-channel exposure versus direct bookings? What is the percentage of online bookings the manager takes versus direct bookings? And how do they handle things like Airbnb, Vrbo, Hopper, Booking.com, Google Vacation Rentals, whatever sites they list on? Is that going to be an additional cost to you? And are they relying totally on those sources as opposed to a healthy direct booking, which involves their own marketing team and their own marketing dollars? And then how responsive are they going to be to your needs as an owner to make sure that week in September gets booked?
So, Tim, I'm going to say something again that's probably controversial, may get me in a little bit of trouble. But to me, if you ask that question and there isn't a large amount of direct bookings, and I'm old school, I kind of look at that as a little bit of a yellow flag because that property manager doesn't necessarily have the brand exposure. They're not optimizing their listings. They're relying more so on listing sites. They have less control of their guest. We'll talk a little bit more about the cancellation policies and how that may affect you. But I like to see a really healthy direct booking. And the other aspect too is that if they rely on the listings as opposed to the direct bookings, so the online travel agents as opposed to the direct bookings, they better provide an unbelievable hands-on local service. And that should be really that bread and butter because that direct booking is really massive for repeat customers, for individuals to have an experience, feel like they're part of something local. So it is big part of the consideration, not necessarily in the agreement, but those conversations that you need to have.
Another one along the line that may not be in the agreement, but you need to make sure you're clear on is how do they handle the marketing polish for your property? Do they have on-staff professional HDR photography? Do they do floor plans? Do they do optimized listing copy? Do they target email and social marketing? Is there a premium presentation directly that impacts that ADR that's going to help you? And if they are relying on some of these third-party sites, I'm sorry, I feel like that's just a little bit lazy. You feel like that's controversial what you said? I'll even go a little bit further. You gotta work, folks, and it is a relationship that you need to cultivate with that property owner. I'm talking not so much to the property owners now as I am to the managers who are listening, but it is a partnership, and what are you bringing to the table? And if you're not doing these kinds of things, why do I need you? I can do all that, right? So
Agreed. And I think even to add on to that, Tim, so as a homeowner, maybe the question you should be asking too is if to give an example of if your property was down, right? Summer's coming or peak season is coming, how would their marketing team start to highlight your home to drive bookings? And you can get a lot from that. So even depending on how they work out their marketing in person, sub it out contract, are they using social? Are they using their email blasts? Are they going straight to a discount? How are they highlighting some of those things? You'll be able to decipher exactly how they kind of run their business and if it'll be a good fit for you as well.
time is flying. We've covered exactly one point. We have several to cover here in the next 13 minutes or so. Let's get on to responsibilities. What is the owner going to be responsible for? What is the manager going to be responsible for, Tiffany?
Yeah, this is key. I like to have this very well lined out in the agreement. I think that it needs to be extremely clear, no ambiguity, listing out dot by dot, talking point by talking point of owner responsibility, notification of stays. You talked about that earlier, what the furnishings are, if there is some type of linen program, so how the owner needs to equip. I also like to have in all of ours that the owner is responsible for licensing and permitting. We help in all of that in our businesses. However, the license and permit either goes with the actual land or with the owner. And so ultimately that still needs to be with the owner, but having that information, you need to know how that's going to be set up. So even in the agreement, if it says that the homeowner is responsible for all of those licensing and permitting, talk through it with your property manager to see how that actually operationally takes place, especially if there's state licensing requirements and local.
Another one, to make sure the owner understands the insurance requirements that are going to be in the agreement. Most agreements I see do require a umbrella type liability policy and naming the agent as an additional insured. So if something comes up and God forbid the owner gets sued for somebody who tripped over a stair and maybe broke their ankle, they're going to bring a suit against the property owner, but they're probably going to bring it against the rental manager as well. And that rental manager may or may not have the appropriate insurance coverage for your incident. And so, again, going through this right now, my property owner is contacted their insurance company, and the insurance company is covering my costs as well here in defending me. And so that's a real key. And make sure you don't scrimp on that, because one incident can bankrupt you.
Absolutely. And anyone can sue anyone. So it happens quite frequently. The other aspect too is that most now local ordinances actually require that insurance be covered and a specific amount. So that agreement should have something in there about your insurance, but you also need to cross-reference it with your local ordinance because there's typically some type of insurance that is required to be able to rent.
Excellent. When we look at the requirements of a property manager or rental manager, typically you're going to think about booking and scheduling the cleans and making sure maintenance is being taken care of. I think a question that a property owner should ask is, how are you handling those kind of guest care issues? Are there boots on the ground nearby? Just leave that there. Or is management outsourced to a remote call center hundreds of miles away and you're in a queue for an hour and a half before you get to a customer service associates? Local teams catch HVAC failures, pipe leaks, partly disruptions in minutes, not hours. And how are those maintenance calls handled? Do you have an in-house technician for minor fixes, or do they dispatch expenses through a third-party vendor for every light bulb that needs to be changed? Do you change or mark up those bills on maintenance work orders? And what is that fee I should expect? Is there an inspection process between guests? Cleanliness is the number one driver. People love a clean property. And if anything is out of order, it is time to get the notepad out, because they are going to find every other thing wrong with that property. So making sure you have that great asset protection as a property owner.
Yeah, and we actually, in a lot of our agreements, require a certain amount of deep cleans a year, and that owners have to have that. I like that in the agreement, and I think that it highlights the care and the standard that we have for all of our homes. But yeah, that inspection process, you need to understand, and the maintenance oversight, they will just have, I will say property managers will just have something very high level about maintenance oversight. You need to ask that question as to what that actually means.
Well, we've covered a lot of things in the past that we're going to reiterate here. Let's talk about termination. What kind of notice is required, and leaving things on good terms? In my area, there actually is a requirement of the current property manager to provide all information regarding guests that stayed in the property or who have expressed interest in staying in the property in the future. And so we call it a Christmas card list, and we provide it to owners who leave our program. We want to never burn a bridge. We may have screwed up and we apologize. We try to take care of that, but sometimes it's irreparable. Sometimes it's a purchase of a property and the buyer has a relationship with another firm. You want to make sure those things are handled well. I have seen so many property managers in the past year put up a fight about giving that information. Again, it's law where I am, but I think it's good just business practice. Don't fight them. Let them know who stayed in their house, and this is how you can contact them.
Yeah, and even going further, trying to understand what happens to reservations after you leave the program. So I've seen a lot of property managers do it different, where those reservations are that company's and they stay with the company, and those, the guests will be moved to other properties. I've seen in other places where they give those reservations to the next property manager or stay with the home. So really having that outlined is important. And then knowing that whatever that termination time frame is, written notice, do you have to have it mailed in? Some people get really sneaky, right? That it can't be written, just emailed. It has to be mailed in. And then from the date of receipt, it's so many days. Understand what that information is.
And many agreements have automatic renewal timeframes. You may want
Absolutely.
to look at that agreement and say, you know what, on August 3rd, I'm renewing this for next year. And today is later than August 3rd. And so you could be up the creek right now if you're a property owner looking to change to another agent. Okay, got some other things here on my list. How about who owns the listing and the reviews and the contract with the contract ends? Many national property managers list properties under their corporate master account. And if an owner leaves, they lose those 50 plus 5-star reviews and they have to start back to zero. That's a key point that you need to make sure you understand, Mr. and Ms. Property Owner.
That's so good, Tim. I can't believe I didn't even have that on my list. I'm so glad you brought that up. That is, again, underline, highlight, star. We should have started with that. That is critical.
We've talked about communication. Do they have an owner portal where you can easily see work orders that are active and what bookings are there and what their guest reviews are and reserving and all those sorts of things? That's another key one, I think. And it goes back to professionalism, which is what we try to promote on this podcast at all times. Act like a professional.
Absolutely. And speaking of a professional, when you see something that is much lower in management fees, again, that is a red flag. So you need to really look through. I know we mentioned again about having a fee structure lined out, but these individuals are getting their money somehow. I'd much rather have people be transparent. If you have professional systems in place, you have a team, you have local boots on the ground, which is what the golden quality of a property management company and what you should really strive to obtain. That management fee is going to be market value. And so if you're not seeing that, you need to understand that you're going to be nickeled and dimed somewhere else.
Question. Most companies have a core value, typically hidden, but the word profitability is definitely a core value of every property manager I've ever seen. Some take it to an extreme, and you need to understand what you're getting into from the start. What else do you have on your list there?
Well, Tim, I couldn't close it out without mentioning something state and local regulation, but I do think, and I will say, I have done so many risk assessments for mergers and acquisitions and really looking through different areas and what the current ordinance structure is and if businesses have the correct licensing. And you would be shocked at how many businesses do not have the correct licensing for their business, nor do they require it or follow up with their homeowners. And that is a major issue. We are seeing all over the country fines, crazy fines that could leave you. I mean, we've seen one just recently for $35,000 that this other company is having to fight. And that's for one homeowner. You need to start to inquire with this property management company. Again, how does the process of state and local licensing happen? Is there someone in the office that's engaged with the county, with a local municipality, with the state? Are they involved from that perspective where they can represent you at hearings? Because regulations will always be there. Whether you've had an ordinance pass or not, there's going to be something. And part of the reason of having that property management company is to be able to have a representative in the room when you can't be, and have the network and connections to understand an ordinance and to be able to respond for those requirements.
I've got one more on my list here, and that is, what is our relationship going to look like? I'm the property owner. I'm talking to you, Mr. or Miss Business Development Person for the company. I really enjoy my relationship with you. Are you going to be my contact from here forward? Or do I need to deal with 12 people in different departments in your company? Is there a single point of contact or not? Not advocating one or the other, just making sure you as the property owner understand. On the vice versa side, how do I want to be communicated with? I am a neurosurgeon. Do not call me. Send me a text, email my assistant, whatever the case might be. Make sure you are clear on how you can be reached when there is a matter that is truly pressing, and understand what that threshold is as well. You used the word threshold earlier with regard to expense on an issue, but I remember clearly calling a property owner who I had assumed wanted me to call them whenever there was an issue, and answered the phone and said, "Tim, that's what I pay you for. Don't call me again." Okay, won't happen, Mr. Owner. But understanding that right up front would have been really helpful in that relationship.
Opposed to, one of our managers last night sent me a screenshot of an owner that he called, and he had been on the phone for 1 hour and 37 minutes, and who likes a lot of touch points. So yeah, you definitely need to outline exactly how do you want to communicate, and what's that threshold?
Yeah, and don't be offended, Mr. or Miss Property Owner, when the company comes back to you and says, "I just don't think this is going to be a good fit." Because they're saving you a lot of trouble in the future. One of my great friends in this industry, who I won't mention the name, out in the Colorado area, his system was he would take a notepad, like with sticky notes, like I'm holding up here if you see on Facebook or YouTube, and every controversial or heartburn type issue that the owner mentioned, he would make a little chit mark. And when he got to 5, I'm sorry, sir, I don't I don't think we're gonna be the right company for you. And so just understand, we're evaluating you as much as you're evaluating us, and it needs to be a great partnership, which is what the whole focus of this podcast was about.
So many keys. We went way over time. But I think that whether you're an owner, which is what today's targeted for, but if you are a property manager and you're not highlighting where you fit into these categories, you need to start looking at it and highlighting that when you communicate with these owners, because we have seen such an increase and people wanting to maybe switch or see how other property managers handle their operations and what they prioritize.
So I've written down 5 questions. If some of you missed all of the takeaways that we've given you, here's 5 you can go with. Number 1, who owns the property listing and guest reviews if we part ways? Tiffany moved that up to number 1, so I'll put that up there. Number 2 question might be, don't ask them on the first contact, what do you charge for your commission? No, what is your total cost structure beyond the headline commission rate? That's a good question. Third question might be, how do you handle maintenance calls? Do you have in-house techs or do you use third-party vendors? And how do you mark up repair bills? Oh, and then how do you physically operate? What's your protocol for after-hours emergencies? That's kind of 2 questions in one. And finally, back to Tiffany, what restrictions, fees, blockout dates, requirements in your agreement that you are going to place on me, so I know that in advance? So there's the quick synopsis for you.
Love it.
Hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Again, Niles, hey, hope you got something out of this. And Bill, the property owner in Arizona, this was for you, buddy. So I appreciate y'all. And next time, Tiffany, we're really excited. We're going to have a headlining guest on the podcast.
We are, and talking about something that everyone has been mentioning. So I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but it's a good one, and we have an expert to help enlighten us.
So at the end of the day, remember this. A great property manager pays for themselves, but a bad one will make you pay for them twice. Choose wisely. Keep asking the hard questions, and we'll see you on the next episode. So long, everybody.
Bye, guys.